correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPG, the podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Hey folks, welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm Steve, and this week I'm going to talk some RPG fun with a friend and creator that I got to see again recently. But before I get into all that, I want to take a minute to tell you about another podcast on the D20 Radio Network. And this week, that's going to be Eberron Renewed, which is an actual play podcast. It is, as you might guess from the title, set in the world of Eberron. Very, very good show. It's actually how I originally discovered the D20 Radio Network. They're well into campaign 3 right now. And I honestly, last I knew, they were going to be using an original system to run campaign 3. I know their first campaign 1, was using 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. The second was using an adaptation of the Genesis RPG. And again, like I said, last I talked with their GM Eric, who runs the podcast and the games for the show, he was working on a custom system. So I unfortunately haven't gotten back to listening to them in a while, but it is a very good show. The people are very cool. I've met a number of them. So go check out Eberron Renewed, and just check out the D20 Radio Network in general for a lot of good gaming podcasts. And speaking of gaming fun, this past weekend, well, in now time for me, because, podcast time dilation weirdness, but last weekend for me was the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo. And it's just a ton of gaming nerd fun, but I got a chance to meet and talk again with someone we had on last year and who I met at the same show last year, that being Brian Colin of Vast Grimm. Or Colin, is it? I can't ever remember.
It's Colin, but I don't get upset either way. I'm just happy to be here.
But so welcome back to the show, Brian. And we'll get into a number of things, but I know one of the reasons you're here is you've got a new thing being promoted right now.
As I always do, right? And thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. You're a fun chat.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a Kickstarter that's going on as we speak. It's been live for a couple of weeks, and by the time this airs, it should hopefully still be on. If you're listening to this in some strange future timeline, it went live at the beginning of we're in October. Yes, beginning of October 2025, and it'll run through October 30th of 2025, and it's a new project for Vast Grimm with a whole bunch of additional content, a lot of which I'm actually printing myself.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. We talked about that a bit. But so what is like Vast Grimm? For those who don't know out there, is actually was the first official third-party production thing for the Morkborg engine.
No, it was the first full hack of Morkborg. So
okay, I knew it was something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people had made adventures at that point, but nobody had put all the rules into the book. Even though the license said that you could use all the rules, nobody had done it where it could be its own self-contained RPG.
Okay.
So I reached out and was like, it says you can use all the rules. Can I really do that? And when they said yes, went full steam ahead. And from me and my friend Ross making Vast Grimm, once we opened the door and did it, then the friends like Luke followed suit and was like, well, if he can do a sci-fi hack of Morkborg, well, I can do a pirate one. And the community was already huge and growing and thriving and really supportive, and it's only grown in the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm. So, the game itself has been out for how long now? I've had my physical copy for over a year, but
the core book was delivered to backers. The physical book was delivered to backers in September of 22. We crowdfunded in July of 21. Yeah, that sounds right. Sometimes my years get mixed up. So Ross and I had the idea for it in late November, early December of 2020, and then crowdfunded it in July, like 6 months, 7 months later.
Cool. So What all do you get with the new box? I mean, I'm looking at the Kickstarter page, but
Sure. There's a
um,
lot. Like, yeah, there's a lot. Part of it is because I want to get new people in, but I also
mhm.
want to make stuff for the existing fans and because I keep making stuff. So there's a starter box for anybody that's new to it, which has a crew member manual. It has a quick start adventure called Flesh of My Flesh, which centers around one of the 6 different types of parasitic worms you can get infected by in the game. It has character creation sheets and then character sheets as well. All of the items in that box, all the items inside the box, I'm actually physically printing myself because I invested in a large digital printer. The box is being made in the US by another company because that's beyond the capabilities of what I can make. But part of that was because of all the tariffs over the past year. And then just today finding out that there's threats of an additional tariff on Chinese manufacturing of a bonus 100% on top of the existing tariffs I was paying on new stuff. I'm glad that I've invested in myself and that I'm trying to make as much as I can directly. But along with those, there's also a network operator manual, which is basically like a GM book. There's a threat registry, which is basically like a bestiary. There's a novella by my friend John Baltzesberger, who's an award-winning horror writer, who I've read the finished draft of this novella, and it's fantastic. It changed how I describe worm infection in this dying universe. There's another zine with fiction that's based around one of the other zines in the game in the Kickstarter that's more adventure and setting, and then another adventure that's the third part of an ongoing adventure series. That adventure is Killing the King's Bounty that can be played with or without the other 2 adventures that came before it. So, and then a T-shirt and patches and all the things that really make this a robust Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, no, I mean, it looks really, really cool, and like you do such a great job of coming up with products that I see and I go, I just want it.
Well, thank you.
And I know you described the last time you were on, you said a lot of this stuff, and I'm guessing this more applies to some of the extras because I know last year at the show you had skateboard decks and all kinds
Uh-huh.
of stuff that a lot of your creative process is you going, well, 13 to 15-year-old me would have really loved to have this, and now I can make it.
Yes, absolutely. If anything, I'm going to make stuff that I want to have and just hope that there's other people out there that are like me.
Oh, absolutely. And I've said this to other people on this show, and so listeners have probably heard this, and I told you in person. To me, you so very much personify that come share my fun attitude that I think is just the cornerstone of indie RPGs. Like, look, I made this thing. It's great. It's fun. Come have fun with me. And
Thank you.
and and this world of Vast Grimm that is this, humanity is infected with parasitic worms and the world is ending, and it's this weird alien meets Guardians of the Galaxy romp that is just, it's fun.
Yes, yes. It's horrifying and sad and scary, but it's really fun and gross to play in.
Oh yeah, and like I know the adventure you ran that I got to play in last year. So we have this grim, gritty escape from a space station. It's being overrun by infected, and we land on this straight out of the '70s shag carpeted spaceship, and it was kind of jarring, but in a good way. And like just the vibe in general of the whole thing is equal parts. Yes, it's horror, but we're gonna have fun with while we're getting screwed.
Absolutely. Yes. I want to throw off the tension and the horror by adding all sorts of weirdness and make it my B movie romp as we go through space.
And I think that's a thing. And because we rabbit trail in this, I had a conversation with someone, and I don't think it was you at PGX, but we were talking about how a lot of times these games that are set in really dark, depressing worlds have this weird, humorous offshoot toward the center. And specifically, indie games tend to do this. And we were kind of talking about, is that maybe part of the reason that those of us who get into a lot of these indie games don't don't prefer a lot of the mainstream, the big dog being D&D, because from a corporate mindset, you're publishing for that middle of the road where we're off to the left with this weird tangent veering toward the middle to make it a little more palatable, but we still have our weirdness over here that, like, I could never see Vast Grimm getting published by a major, corporate publisher because it's too
Too weird.
edge. Yeah, it's too weird. They would go, but we can't sell 6 million copies of this. And
Why are there so many fart jokes in there?
right. But like for me, RPGs, like, and it'd be interesting to hear your perspective of this as a creator. Like, once you've written the book and I buy it and take it to my table, now that world is mine.
Oh,
You've
absolutely.
given me a sandbox to play in,
But please make it your own.
the what I build with that sand may or may not be anything like what you had in mind. And I feel like, and maybe this is just a commentary on society, but so many of the products we see, like, they want to spoon feed you everything. And
Well,
RPGs are kind of the opposite of that.
yes, yes, absolutely. Some RPGs, like when you get into things like Adventurers League or certain things like that, I think part of it is that because a company or a brand or an IP gets so big that they want to, it's kind of like the McDonald's effect, where the company wants people to have the exact same experience no matter who they're playing with or what they're playing with. When you go to play with indie RPG games, there usually isn't that sort of mindset with the creator because usually they want a lot first. A lot of indie RPG folks make one thing and then they kind of move on to the next. So, but like with this, I've always wanted people to make it their own because that's part of why the core rulebook is so small and so financially accessible. Like I want people to get this, and then I grew up, all I did was homebrew. Like I'd buy a bunch of other books because I always wanted to read and dive in and get inspiration and ideas. But very rarely did I ever run a pre-written module.
Hmm.
Like because I always wanted to make up my own stuff. So like I want to be able to satisfy the itch of both types of game runners, like the people that want to make their own or also the people that need the adventure or want the adventure to give them guidance or some people especially now just don't have enough time to come up with adventures on their own and they're not as invested in years into this setting where they can just make stuff up on the fly like I do.
Oh, right. And the other thing that I've come to realize as an enthusiast and as someone who puts out a podcast about games and that, like, I don't consider myself a freak, but in the scope of people in this hobby, I am definitely on the much more invested fringe than your average user. And sometimes it's like, well, what is the normal user? Is that the person who goes to their friend's house every 2 weeks and plays for 4 hours? I don't know. It's
I don't
somewhere
either,
in the middle.
right?
But like you pointed out there, right? You're invested in the Vast Grimm world. I think it's great, but it helps, someone like myself to have more material. Not that I can't make stuff up, but it provides tonal instruction.
Yep.
And the one thing, and I don't know if you do this in all your adventures, but the adventure book that I picked up from you at the show, you pointed out that, like, and your graphics choices are very identifiable, let's put it that way, but you have specifically colored text within the adventure that is basically writer suggestion for what you were thinking of doing in this scenario, which I
Yes.
think is really useful. And also the way you've laid it out is very, very easy to see as opposed to it being an appendix in the back of the book. It's just a couple lines right below the thing in a nice bright color. And it's just, it's so useful.
And so I've only done it in that adventure and then the Flesh of My Flesh adventure that's in the current Kickstarter. And those were only because I realized that there are like after having this out for a few years and meeting people and talking with people, there have been multiple people that this is the first game that not only that they've actually run for other people. And
Hmm.
because of that, I wanted to create an adventure that makes it easier and that it doesn't just assume because like when Ross and I first wrote the core book, we just assumed that nobody's going to play this that hasn't played RPGs before. But, just being old men, that's just kind of what our thinking was, and thinking that, like, there's no way that Vast Grimm could be the gateway drug to get people to play other games of make believe. But now
Hmm.
that we've seen that happen and seen that this is the game that some people run for the very first time, I want to try and make it the best experience for them as possible, so that they want to run more games.
Hmm. Well, and I think too, the Borg engine in general is very lightweight. There aren't a
Hmm.
lot of rules to have to remember, which is a two-way thing. Like it's a double-edged sword, because it doesn't have a lot of rules for you to remember. You don't have to remember a lot of rules. But with that comes, oh, my players did this thing and I don't know how to decide what happened. Like it wasn't Fast Grim, but I ran a game at a convention about a year and a half ago where my players, and in a super rules light system, even lighter than the Borg engine, decided to have an in character drinking game,
Hmm.
and it was great fun. But it's like at the table, you have to figure out how you're going to adjudicate this.
Right.
And okay, I mean, heavens, I ran my first RPG session somewhere in the late 90s.
Hmm.
I haven't played, there have been times I've taken off from playing in that time, but I've been doing this for a long time. I've gotten really good at kind of thinking on my feet and being able to react. But if it's the first time you've ever run a game, and I'm sure you can verify this because I'm sure you've been gaming a long time,
Yes.
your players will throw something you never saw coming at you. That is
Yeah.
the one thing you can bank on.
Yes, and I mean that's the thing that's what makes me excited about running games. But also, I'm very seasoned at it. So when it's early on in your game running career, that can be crippling.
Well, and I think it's anxiety inducing, and a
Hmm.
lot of people, well, let's just be honest, running games is a form of public speaking.
Hmm.
It's not an extremely large audience, but it's also performance. So it's like two things that a lot of people have anxiety over,
Sure.
all rolled in together. And what you're doing with those things to just provide tools to make that a better experience, I think is a great thing.
Thank you. And I've had a lot of GMs pop into the Grim Place Discord and ask questions and like, "Hey, I'm about to run this. What about this or what about that?" And usually, if I'm busy, usually somebody else is jumping in and giving their thoughts because a lot of people have already run the adventures. Or then, oftentimes, depending on what's going on with me, I'm usually fairly quick to respond as well. So even though some of the later adventures don't have those, there's usually people out there that are willing to help and kind of give some guidance if there's ever any questions.
Yeah, I was going to say you do have a Discord channel that's quite active. I'm a member, although I'm a quiet member most of the time because
I get it. That's how I am in most discords,
things,
right? Life is
life,
busy.
day job,
Yep.
home. um, but yeah, so now does this starter box include a copy of the core book, or is it like kind of broken out into the two books you mentioned?
It's not because I'm moving to the zine format. The physical hardcover books that have been printed are going to be the all that are left. After that, it's all going to be moving to that zine format
Okay.
because of everything with manufacturing and moving to the future.
Okay. And I know, you and I had a bit of a conversation about this, but you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but you literally have your printing setup in your backyard at this point.
Yes.
So you, when you say you are printing, you are actually pushing the button on the printer.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm setting up all the files. I'm cutting the paper down to size. I'm sending the file over to print. I'm checking the color, checking the how everything folds and cuts and staples, and making sure everything looks good. And then working down in my print shop while everything's printing, and just double checking everything and making it happen.
Well, I think that's cool too. And boy, it's just, like you said, going to a zine format allows you to do that because I know. having talked with other people, depending on your quantity and what you want out of a book, the printing just isn't available economically, at least here in the U.S. for RPG books.
Yes. I mean, especially hardcover books. If you wanted, like, all the previous Vast Grimm books are all, well, aside from the zines that we've put out, are hardcover Smith sewn. So that means that every 8 pages, like, all the pages have, like, sewing and stitching in the signatures to then sew it and bind it to the area where the spine is. And that's where the pricing really goes up, versus using like a glue method where it's a perfect bound where they cut all the pages and then glue the entire spine, but it makes it harder to get into the center where in the gutter where all the pages start to come together. But Smith sewn in the US is just, unless you're printing tens of thousands of copies, it's just not financially feasible. And so I love the hardcover books. I love my shelf with all my A5 hardcover books. It's beautiful and it makes me happy looking at it and seeing all the spines. And but this moving to this format just makes it where I can print as few or as many as I need, and I can print weird small run stuff, like if I go to a show and want to do something exclusive to that show or incentivize people to come and play in games of Vast Grimms at shows. I've got a lot of plans for 2026 now that I'm just now getting going on this printer, and the colors and the quality of the printing so far have been really fantastic, and people that have received the 2 zines that I've printed so far it's been really well received.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm happy that it's working out because it seems like just, yes, it's an investment, but it's an investment that you reap by not having to pay for the service.
Yes. Yeah,
And like you
absolutely.
mentioned, like we were talking, you said you're getting ready to leave for a show. Oh no, I need 10 more copies of whatever. Click,
Right.
click, click. Okay.
Boom. Yes.
Um, Speaking of shows, though, I know you're fairly active on the convention circuit. What do you have, for anyone out there that's listening that's, obviously PGX is past and they can't check you out there. Do you have any shows you're going to in, the next couple of months you know of already?
Yes, absolutely. I've got 3 more shows before the year closes out. And this year I think has been probably my busiest. I think it's 12 or 13 this year. Coming up the last weekend before Halloween weekend is LugCon, just north of Atlanta. It's the inaugural year of this. It's a tabletop show that's touting itself as a family-friendly tabletop show focusing on all things tabletop. And I'm my company, Creature Curation, is one of the featured sponsors. I'm going to have a big booth set up. I'm going to have games of Vast Grimm, games of Skirmish, my skirmish game set in the same universe as Vast Grimm, and games of Plunderlust being run. The co-creator Ross Brandt is going to be running a game or two. I'm going to be running a game and be working the booth and that sort of things, and that should be super fun. A couple weeks later, I'm going to be up at Mythic Con. This is my first year up there in North Carolina, but my friend Craig from Black Oak Workshop, they make dice. He lives in Georgia as well. Recommended it, and I know a couple other industry friends I know have gone years past. I know I asked Professor Dungeon Master about that, and he said it's a really fun show. And my friend Jim from the Tabletop Engineer Plays goes up there as well. So hopefully, not only will I get to make some sales at that show, but it's also a smaller one. So maybe I'll get to join in some games with some folks in the evening, and then final for the year, I have PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia in November, the weekend before Thanksgiving, and that's always a big one. That's always in the RPG space. That is probably the one most attended by other Borg creators. So
Mhm.
for me, that's always a good time. I always organize a meetup with the other creators where we all get together and just get to know each other a little bit better and hang out in one of the evenings. And so I always very much look forward to that.
Well, that's cool. And look, people, Brian is a wonderful person to come chat with. His booth is very fun to look at. He has all kinds of cool stuff. So if you're going to air in the neighborhood at any of those shows, stop by, check him out, say hi. Great fun. Just look for the unmistakable. What is that? Magenta, technically.
Yes, yes. It's 100% magenta. If you were to go through like the CMYK sliders that you use for printing, it's 100% magenta and nothing else.
So it's very eye-catching and it just works.
Thank you.
Also, just a couple, I don't know, a month ago, I had Zach Goins on to talk about Raptor Ruckus, and you're the
Yes.
publisher of that, which is another side of this madness that you've gotten yourself into because you like to play games, and now you have to work on them.
I know, and I'd like to make friends playing games, and it's crazy. Yes, my creature curation business is just growing just because, gosh, I like to make friends at shows. And so, yes, I'm taking on the publisher role of Raptor Ruckus. It's currently still being worked on. It only recently finished crowdfunding. It did fantastic. I was actually yesterday. I'm also not only am I the publisher, but I'm also contributing some of the art to the book. So I was working on some art yesterday for it as well. But I'm looking forward to next year having the printed copies of it and all the components that go with it, and helping to organize the organized play of people playing Raptor Ruckus at conventions that we're at as well. And then along with that, I'm going to be publishing Chainsaw, which is a slasher hack of Merkborg that Matthew Mislinski had on Kickstarter. That should be out sometime next year as well. I'm going to be publishing a couple of other upcoming books that Zach has his hands in, and who knows what else after that, because I don't know. I feel like the next couple of years are going to be very busy for me, along with creating my own stuff, but also helping to get other people's work out there as well.
Well, I didn't, and I recognized Zach's name when I saw the Raptor Ruckus stuff, and you actually put me in contact with him to help set up the interview, and I backed Raptor Ruckus because I want a officially not Jurassic Park RPG.
Right. Yes. Something inspired heavily by.
Right. But what I didn't realize at the time was how many things Zach had already worked on.
Gosh, yes.
For how many different people. And then I know, another name I've seen involved with Be It That and some of your stuff is Walton Wood. So if you have connected with those two, you have contacts for years anyway.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah, yeah. Walton has been editing all the Vast Grimm stuff. I think just beyond the initial crowdfunding campaign. All the books after that, Walton's been editing and has kept my stuff on track and kept my writing seem way better than it actually is.
Yeah, I first heard of Walton through Gav Quiroga when we talked to him about Hell Knight, and he said Walton had worked with him as an editor, on even Neurosity, and I'm drawing a blank on his fantasy Warpland.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny the interconnections that as you get a little deeper into the RPG scene, the people that this person worked with this person on that and that and essentially it's like 5 steps of Kevin Bacon, but
yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's pick 2 random people and you can probably put them together even quicker.
Yeah. Most of us, especially those of us that go to conventions, I've only met Walton at one con, but most of us that do the con circuit, you get to know each other pretty quick because you see a face over and over again, and they're selling similar stuff to you. You become friends.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would imagine it's just. Yeah, I know, we had met all of once, and you saw me coming down the aisle and wave at me at PGX.
Right.
Now,
yep.
Granted, how many overgrown dwarves do you see running around, and my con shirt is a little recognizable, but
Yep.
But yeah, no, I just, God, Brian, I don't want to buy more stuff, but this box is pretty.
Well, thank you. One of the best things about the box, one of the things that I think is the best thing about the actual starter box itself, one, you can buy it without the contents if you just want to put other stuff in it. 2, it's oversized A5, so you can actually fit hardcover books in it. And 3, I'm not printing any of the details on the box itself. So the starter set details is going to be on a slip, like a piece of paper that gets put on the back and then shrink wrapped to it. So it's just a pretty box all the way around. Like the art's on the front, on the back, and so it's just it could just be a pretty box and not have anything to do with Vast Grimm, except for the logo on the front and the sides.
Of
But
course.
aside from that, it could just be a pretty box.
Damn it.
I'm sorry you didn't do overtime today. You'll make up for it tomorrow so you can spend more.
Hey, look, Zach was Raptor Ruckus was me breaking a fairly long streak of okay, I'm not backing anything else because I have too much I haven't played yet.
Yes. Yeah, I get that.
Oh man. So I mean, you've already mentioned so much stuff that you've got going on. I mean, yeah, well, do you want to talk a little bit about Plunderlust and Squirmish? Because I know those are
Sure.
actually new since the last time we talked, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Plunderlust just delivered to backers. It's finishing delivering to all the non-US backers because I'm using a fulfillment company out of the UK for that. That is a card game set in the same universe as Vast Grimm, where you're building out a crew of space pirates. You explore locations, fighting the monsters that show up in those locations, hoping that your crew can get big enough and you can get enough gear for yourself because you're a part of the crew as well to defeat a boss monster before your life meter runs out. It can be played solo with one deck, and if you have multiple decks, it can be played versus or co-op. The 7 decks that have been released as part of the initial wave are all based off of the different Space Raider factions that are in the RPG. So it continues to expand the lore of the RPG, and those cards themselves in the decks are actually compatible with the RPG. So the characters and monsters have hit points, they have armor, they have weapons on the cards that directly translates to the RPG. I'm trying to overlap things so that if you like both of them and you're playing the RPG and maybe running a game, you can pull out one, you can use them for random generation, you can use them in adventures that you create. So it has a lot of that overlap. I didn't design the mechanics of the game. Duncan Hall did, and he did a magnificent job with it. It's bright and shiny, just like all the other Vast Grimm stuff, and it fits in really well. I'm super excited to see how this goes over with stores and distribution, as I should start getting numbers from that in the next month or two, because I think people are gonna like it.
Cool. Yeah, card games are like I'm of that age where I remember Magic the Gathering is the thing that you played before everyone got to the D&D session. And it's so much beyond that now and other games, and a part of me would love to get into more of that, but I keep looking it's like I tell people, look, most gamers of any type, be it tabletop, whatever, we love video games too. And I do, but the newest console that I own is a Wii.
Yeah, right. I get it.
I have a PS2 and a Wii.
Uh-huh.
And part of me, I see a lot of these games and I go, gosh, I would love to play, Red Dead, Mass Effect, whatever. And then I go, how can I justify for myself spending $500 on a new console when I haven't turned the one that I own already? I haven't turned it on in 6 months.
Right. Yep.
And I've already got how many ways I want to spend free time that I already don't have.
Yes. Yeah. No, I know that that's a real dilemma, especially like all those video games, the newer ones, look prettier and prettier. Luckily for me, I don't play a lot of video games only because my time is so gone. There seems to be so little of it. But whenever I do, I tend to try and play on one of my kids' handheld devices because I seem to only be able to play retro style games anymore, like things that harken back to Nintendo, the original NES or Super NES, things that are a little simpler because my brain just cannot do the more complicated games of the modern era.
Oh, trust me, even the PS2 controller for me having the 4 buttons up on, I call it the shoulder of the controller,
Yep.
like messes with me.
Yep.
As opposed to just 2.
Yeah, totally.
Let alone now some of these, there's like 6 buttons there's buttons underneath, there's triggers, there's
Yes, and I'm just mashing all of them at one time.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, combine that with the fact that my hands, like I can engulf most controllers with one hand.
Yep. Oh, you'd also mentioned. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say also you have Skirmish, which is a mini
Yes.
skirmish game.
Yes, and that should be coming out. We're already October 11th. Next week, I'm going to start printing the booklets on that. Those are something else I'm going to be printing out on my printer. That is a miniature skirmish game set in the same universe as Vast Grimm, where you have basically 5 characters, just kind of slimmed down from what you would normally have in Vast Grimm. You can play solo with one crew. You can play co-op or versus, each person with their own crew, and you can play up to 4 people. It's set around a 2 foot by 2 foot space. The first adventure book has 13 different stories in it that can, they're in like 3 episode arcs, except for the last one, which is 4 sessions. You can play them one at a time, you can play them as arcs, but it's basically you going on specific missions. It's miniature agnostic, although Saul Blair of Malevolent Minis sculpted Vast Grimm minis, and the STL should be available in the next couple of weeks. And I have all the physical minis that he printed right now. He also did all the minis for Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, if you've seen those. So they're beautiful. He's done a fantastic job with that. And you can use any terrain types of things that you have. You can use empty soda cans, whatever, for things. But I have in the books mapped out how the top-down view would look of where different things would be and where you would place different stuff for each scenario. And it's all interconnected with the Vast Grimm stuff. So there's things, everything in that kind of overlaps. So if you like the RPG, it'll be an easy way to get into that. It's based on the Forbidden Psalm rules, which was the hack of Morkborg for a skirmish game. So I hacked that because it only made sense to use a pre-existing skirmish rule set, for Morkborg for my hack of Morkborg. So it all kind of ties in together. And it's super fun and lightweight, and usually a scenario takes about 45 minutes to play. So if you like the idea of skirmishy type games that aren't super long and really, it's not so much wargaming as it is going on adventures and having to solve a specific purpose in each scenario.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I minis are another thing that it's a rabbit hole I've been trying very hard to not fall down.
Yes, yes, I get that.
Like, and I say that, and I mean that not to in any way, say anything negative about that side of the hobby existing. I think they're fantastic. I would love to have the time to play any number of miniatures games, but I don't.
Right. Yeah.
And otherwise, it would just be, I would have boxes of minis sitting around in addition to my stacks of books.
Yes. Yep. Uh-huh.
But for those people, and I like too that you made it, miniature agnostic, because I don't know, it also feels like, just by the nature of Vast Grimm, that for terrain, it would be the perfect game to use old janky sci-fi toys that have been sitting in a box for how
hell
long?
yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Use whatever you've got. Spend as little money as possible to have fun. And, and then also make it your own. And like, I love the idea of people like cutting toys apart and gluing them back together and making the weird stuff.
Yeah, kit bash.
Yep.
Yeah, I know someone else who made a miniatures game, and they did do some sculpts for it, but they have been very open about saying that their whole idea was they want you to kit bash with whatever to build your stuff for this. It's a rule set much more than, buy all our stuff like some giant unnamed miniatures company that we know
Right.
about.
I
Actually,
would
that is the
Yeah.
biggest reason I've never gotten deep into miniatures, is the relationship that even the hardcore fans of that company have towards that company.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And originally, when I was first, like, I had already started working on Squirmish before I met Saul through Brian Shutter. So I was just going to put it out as a book without minis at all. But when there was then the opportunity to have minis made for Vast Grimm, I was like, yes, please, even if it's just for me. Like, I want to see what someone else, their vision of what Ross and I have written, and see how they interpret that into a 3-dimensional form with very little guidance from me other than what we have in the books.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think, to me, that speaks to your spirit as a creator, that you want to see what someone else does with your sandbox. You
Yes.
know, it's yes, I made a sandbox, but I want to see how other people play with it.
I want to see other cats poop in the sand.
But no, like to me that's just that's what makes this RPG community gaming scene great is the people who want to see more fun had.
Mm,
You know, like yes, you run a business, you do need to make a profit, but it's not about making the most profit, it's about making a profit so you can keep doing the fun things.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So, what else do we have going on? My brain is running on fumes apparently, and I know you took a nap and stayed up late to talk to me. Um, Anything else been on your mind as far as gaming? Actually, I don't know. Did I ever ask you the last time? How did you get into gaming in the first place?
You may have, but like I'm old and I my I was at my friend's house. They had asked me to get matches from my house because we had a matchbook collection that we inherited from like one of my grandparents. Like I don't know, they just went to places and collected matchbooks, and my friends wanted me to get some so they could burn some stuff. Um, so I was over at their house in their backyard. We lived in, I grew up in Maryland and we lived in townhouses. So the backyards weren't very big. And there was like a little tiny cement stair, couple of steps and like little cement pad off of the back door. And we were just lighting matches and lighting little things on fire. Nothing big, no major arson or anything. But their older sister saw us doing that and came and like hit us all on the back of the head, stormed off inside and came back out with the red box for D&D, and that was in 4th grade, and I was born in 76, so that was sometime in the early 80s, and it just playing that once. Shortly after that, I convinced my dad to take me to the local toy store to get my own box, and been playing ever since. There have been some breaks in college when I didn't have as many people to play with, and some breaks in a couple of few year breaks early in my professional work life just because there just wasn't time and going through cycles of all sorts of different games. But it's always had a huge underlying impact. I mean, between RPGs and Lego, I think those are the two most influential things on my creativity, and the path and comic books and the paths that I chose that chose me early in life.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, knowing, one thing we didn't talk about is part of the thing you do with creature curation is you also do sculpture, I guess is the best way to describe
Hmm.
it. And that's, having looked on your website and seen some of that is very influenced by, we'll call it gaming fantasy. Are you more of a sci-fi guy or fantasy? I mean, obviously Vast Grimm is very much sci-fi, but like as a general rule, much prefer sci-fi to fantasy. Even
Hmm.
though I'll play fantasy, I own plenty of fantasy games. But um, do you have a particular bend, or is Vast Grimm just where your imagination went and you followed that rabbit hole?
Well, I did do a fantasy setting before, like the once I was in the tabletop industry, I started out in fantasy, and I think I've always personally gravitated towards more sci-fi things just because I like the weird technology. I like the strange alienness of stuff. I feel that with most fantasy, you usually fall into very specific tropes of everything, and it's harder to break out of that creatively because
Hmm.
when I was doing sculptures, especially like so I started in the industry as an artist making sculptures, and they were all creatures of my own. Almost all of them were just creatures that I made up, right? Just weird things out of my head. But because people are so in tune with fantasy, I can't tell you the number of times people have been like, oh, look, he makes dragons. And it's like every creature to them, no matter what it was, because it was a big weird head, it was a dragon. And I think when you break out of fantasy and go into other genres, people aren't, their minds aren't automatically, they they find familiarity with it, but they don't automatically assume what it is. And
Hmm.
I think that's what I like. I feel like in non-fantasy settings, my mind can go into more other places, and I can create things that it's harder for me to create that in fantasy outside of just straight up creatures and monsters.
Mm-hmm. No, that's interesting. Like you said, the whatever what people assume it is.
Hmm.
That's interesting because yeah, I just I don't know. It's a thing I think about sometimes. So before I forget about it, you have a website, you have all this stuff. You want to give people where to find you on the web, socials, anything like that. You already mentioned the Discord,
Sure.
anything of that other stuff.
Just go to Creature Curation. That's creature and then CURATION.com, and that's you can find almost everything. Track all the things down from there. I'm pretty terrible at being on social media. Mostly, I'm just like pushing stuff out there. The only place I'm really active and actually social is in my Discord. But I tend to be way more conversational there and feel comfortable just chatting in there.
Well, I feel you there because I'm very much the same way. I've been trying to make an effort to be a little more active on BlueSky the last I don't know week or so, just
Uh
because
huh.
I probably should, but sometimes social media is tiring.
Yes, I am right there with you.
Um, all right. I'm sure we could chat about any number of things for a long, long time, but it's getting late and it feels like we're both mentally a little out of steam.
Yeah.
So, shall we launch into game of the week?
Yes, we certainly should.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
All right. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to?
I'm more than happy to go first. So,
All right.
while I was away, a package came in the mail. And it's
Ah.
funny that that package was from somebody else that was at Pittsburgh Gaming Expo.
Hmm.
And it was the Dragon Town and Darkness Below by JP Couvert. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to JP at the show.
I don't think so.
Oh, JP is a delight. If you haven't had the chance, look up JP Couvert. He comes from the comic book side, but he's been in the tabletop area for a while. He makes a Ghostbusters hack that's just
Okay.
zine size. It's the character sheets look like the proton packs. It's super light, super fun. He has a Tunnel Goons hack that's a TMNT hack. He makes zines on how to draw maps, how to draw characters, all that stuff. But Dragontown and the Darkness Below is a system agnostic, system neutral RPG adventure that I haven't
Hmm.
gotten to start reading yet. But everything about it, it looks fantastic. Like I just talked about getting away from fantasy, and here I am being like, yeah, I'm super excited about this fantasy book. But it looks great. He's a fantastic illustrator, and the way he writes really is engaging and pulls you in and makes you want to have fun at the table and makes you want to have fun with the other folks playing.
Well, let's see it right. That's the thing. Sharing the fun.
Yep.
All right. Well, that sounds really cool. You said that's called Dragon Town and the Darkness Below.
Yes.
All right. I will have to look that up. And I'm very sorry I did not run into them at the convention. But
Hopefully he'll be back next year.
yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to see familiar faces too.
Right.
So I'm actually also going to select something that I actually picked up a copy of at PGX, that being The Very Good Dogs of Chernobyl from Ninth Level Games. And what this is, it's a little mini RPG. It's what is it, A5 size, soft cover. It's about a quarter of an inch thick. PDF listed at 88 pages. I'll put a link to the drive-through PDF in the show notes, along with some sort of link that I'll find for Dragontown. But the premise behind The Very Good Dogs of Chernobyl is that, obviously we all know in 1986 there was a meltdown at the nuclear plant in the Soviet Ukraine, so on and so on. Well, everyone had to leave. And actually, if you've ever seen footage of the town of Pripyat, it's amazingly creepy. Just because you can tell, like literally, they went, get on the bus, get out of town. Like there's an amusement park that was set to open like a week after the meltdown happened, and it's just rusting in place.
Oof.
It's strangely some of the footage that really hit me was there was a television show on, I think, Discovery for a while called River Monsters,
Uh-huh.
which was a fishing show.
Right.
But he actually went into the exclusion zone and fished in some of the canals. But some of the footage they got of just the scene was just very striking. But in any case, right, everyone packs up and leaves. But they had to leave everything behind, including their dogs. So they fled off into the woods. And in this game, you play those dogs.
Oh, fun.
So you play as dogs, dealing with the weirdness that came of, the reactor meltdown and whatever dark forces may have been unleashed and whatever. It seems really neat, really light. I haven't really got a chance to read through it, but they use from ninth level games, if I didn't say that, and it uses their polymorph system, in
Fantastic.
which depending on what role your character is playing within the group, you only use one die. It may be a 4, a 6, an 8, a 10, but you only need one die to play this game. Each of you will need a different die, but one dice set, you can play the whole game and no one has to share. And you get to choose the breed of your dog, which gives you edges and so forth. There's also, it just seems really, really cool, really simple, really fun for, as they put it, great for moody one-shot horror or a campaign of melancholy survival.
Awesome.
Which, and you get to play dogs. And why not?
Kobold does some fantastic stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just fun. And as it turns out, the person running the booth for ninth level at PGX is the sibling of one of my college gaming friends.
Fantastic. So small, how small our world is.
Right. Well, we were talking about that earlier, and it was just like, because I'm walking up the aisle, and then I saw the booth, and it kind of rang a couple bells, and then I saw the person. I'm like, yeah, there's a familiarity there.
Yep.
And it was kind of crazy. So I picked that up. I'm actually going to try and have them on to talk about some of their stuff, just because they make a bunch of cool little mini, like, one shot or short campaign games that are very much, just kind of go on the feel, and the mechanics are there to just kind of help you along, which, it's like we talked about with the Borg engine, right? It's the way it is. Actually, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up, because tangent.
Sure.
So Vast Grimm is made under the Morkborg Creative License.
Yes.
Do you have anything, like, let's say I wanted or somebody else wanted to do something set? How does that work as far as
licensing goes?
Yeah, like the Morkborg license is there, but I don't know how much transfers.
You have to basically declare the Morkborg license, and then you have to do the Vast Grimm license as well. But there have been 2 physical releases so far. There's been a handful of digital releases under the Vast Grimm third-party license. And then we're also going to do one for Plunderlust and Squirmish as well, because I want more people making their own content for it. There's currently another Vast Grimm, there's a Vast Grimm third-party title on Kickstarter, trying to get more people following the page before they launch. I know that there's supposed to be another one for Zine Month in February, at least one. So yeah, the goal is to try and get more people growing the community in a similar fashion to what Morkborg has done, and I may even adopt what Raptor Ruckus did during their crowdfunding campaign and do a call to action to try and get people to submit ideas for their adventures, and then have a cash, not really prize, but like a payout for the people that I choose to then actually publish their adventures as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, basically you're very open to other people coming in, and as long as they follow some basic rules, making more stuff for people to play with.
Yeah, put this line of text, put their Morkborg's line of text, don't do anything hateful, and make stuff. Make money off of it. It would be even better if you can make money off of it.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to come talk with me, even though it's this late, weird hour and brains are frazzled.
Steve, it's always a pleasure getting to chat with you, so thank you.
Oh, like I said, yeah. Thank you too. I think with all that, check Brian's stuff out. Creaturecuration.com. Search Vast Grimm. I'm sure you'll find all roads point to the right place, or at least most of them. With all that, check out, all the links to everything will be down in the show notes. Our Patreon, if you feel so inclined. Links to our socials as much as, I post anything on them. Links to our Discord where you can come chat with me and whoever else and anyone else who wants to join in. Maybe we'll probably throw a link to Brian's Discord in there as well. And I think with all that being said, get out there and play some RPG and be kind to one another.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.